I see someone has came on. We got people on YouTube already. This is the first time I'm going live on Facebook since the deletion, right? Since I was removed. So I'm gonna give it some time for people to build up onto there. I won't be going live a lot on Facebook, but I want to be able to go live whenever Kelly and Ricky and and Vanessa and a lot of the people from the Born Winner Squad are going live. I can be able to go live with them, and it's a lot easier to do that on Facebook than it is YouTube. So I hope everyone can hear me okay. Comment so I can see you guys on Facebook. I see you. What's on? Let's see, Rail. What's going on, brother? I see you, Rail. What's up, Delisha, Marco? I see you. Okay, okay. All you guys just popped up. Okay, perfect. What up? What up? What up, J Toko? What's up, Demille? Hi, Carl. Peace, 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 family. Love you guys. Love you guys. Welcome on. We're going to talk today. We're going to talk about escaping the matrix mentally, right? How do you mentally escape the matrix? What is the matrix? And what do you mean by mentally escaping it, not physically escaping it? So we're going to get into a couple of different topics here. First off, I want you guys on Facebook, share this, please. Please share this video. Everybody won't get it. This is my first time going live since I got this little new page. So share the video for me, please, before we get started up. Peace, Denise. Peace, Nika. Peace, Theodora. Peace, Tamasha. Peace, Leandro. Peace, Raynard. Peace, Latonian. Says I'm in the matrix as a musician in the church. Okay, Real, I understand that as well. We all do something in the matrix, right? We may not all like what we do, but we continue to contribute to it, right? But how do we escape the matrix mentally if we're contributing to it daily, right? How do we escape the matrix? I promise you I'm not stalling. I'm just trying to wait a little while for people to come on. There's very few people on Facebook. To be honest, I haven't saw numbers that was that low, but again, I did lose my whole platform, so I do want to give people some time to come on. And also I have people watching on Facebook, on YouTube as well. I didn't warn anybody that I was going live, so I just want to give it a minute. However, I don't like to waste too much time before I go in, because when people catch it late, I don't want them to have to sit through a bunch of me waiting to go live, right? I see you, CD. What's up with you, man? Sid said do a tutorial on my head wrap. I will, man. A lot of people keep asking. I'm actually working on trying to get this to where I can actually sell them to you guys, man. So many people are wanting to wear them. Someone says, let's see, Kevin Wesley, I noticed you wear the Ankh. You know that is man-made also. It doesn't have any proof and facts behind it. That's correct, Desmond. So why do I wear the Ankh? Actually, I don't wear the Ankh. I used to, and I still don't mind wearing it. So, but when I wear an Ankh, right, or when I wore the Ankh, why did I wear it? If it actually has no real meaning other than the meaning that we apply to it. Can y'all hear me? I feel like I'm talking low, but can you guys hear me pretty well? That's right, Sid, it's symbolism. That was a great question, by the way. Actually, that'll help me initiate this topic. So thank you, guys. Okay, perfect. Marco said it's clear. All right, so that'll help me initiate this topic. He says, why did you wear the Ankh, right? We talked to people about the cross and how negative that is and what it means. Of course, two male phallics instead of the male and female, which creates life, right? As opposed to actual non-life or death, right? But it's just a symbol at the end of the day. The only understanding is what you apply to it, so it doesn't mean anything. It's honestly just two lines that go across. Had one line be reduced in size, it'd be a plus sign. Extending that lower half makes it a holy symbol or a homosexual death symbol, depending on how you look at it. Well, what's the purpose of it all, right? Why do we take pride in these symbols? Why do we wear them? Why would we tell someone else not to wear it when we are, in fact, wearing a symbol that also really holds no meaning other than what you apply to it? So let's deal with that, okay? What's the problem? The problem is we develop language, because not just ankhs and not just crosses, we develop language and we develop symbolism, right? or we develop mathematics and calculations. The problem is, when we created these things, they were actually insufficient to actually explain the complexity of the world. So when you have language first being created, you have math first being created, these things are very basic, comparing them to the complexity of the universe. So there's a problem already when you believe that the information that you create versus which means math and language actually has anything to do with the world, when one is basic and the other one is very complex, right? So here's the problem. We actually literally believe that the concepts and symbols that we have literally have something to do with the world. And that's where we go off. So how do you escape the matrix? Because that's what becomes the matrix. We believe that money is wealth. Do we not? This is a key example of when you believe that a tool is actually real, right? Money is a currency that man agrees upon to have trade value. But money does not make you wealthy. If you believe that these papers are actually valuable, then you are in the matrix, not thinking outside of it. Mentally, you're in the matrix, as well as contributing to it. Now, we all contribute to the matrix, right? Again, me wearing an ankh would be contributing to the matrix, right? Because I'm wearing an ankh, I'm wearing a symbol. But believing that that ankh is giving me supernatural abilities or somehow has an intention within itself other than what I apply to it or what I was taught about it, then I would be therefore trapped by the matrix and I can't see outside of it. See, I can wear a symbol that is an ankh, knowing that the only meaning to it is what man applied to it. And I simply wear it because I like the meaning, right? I can identify with what it means. It means life. It represents something. So now it represents something to me. So I wear it, not believing that the ankh, if I hold it up to a demon, they'll flee. Not believing that somehow, if I have this ankh on, things will benefit me during my day. Other than socially, this ankh will have nothing to do with my day, right? And this is anything in life. Socially, we apply our belief to constructs, and none of these things really exist. That's not just the ankh that someone may wear on their neck, though. It's not just the ankh that someone may wear on their neck. The very state you live in, okay, is a concept, right? Dallas, Texas is a concept. It's not a real place, right? Africa was named after a man named Africanus, which before that, the name of Africa was Akelbalan. So if we say we have African heritage, what are you really saying? Because that is a made-up landmass, right? That's a made-up name. So again, the matrix has names, titles, mathematics, calculations, language. But do we really believe that these things have anything to do with the world, though? Think about this. I just said Dallas, Texas, right? What makes Dallas, Texas exist to you? The fact that you can locate it on a map? The fact that when you're there, your GPS says you're there? The fact that when you landed at the airport, they told you were in Dallas, Texas? You drove to Dallas, Texas, and you saw a sign that said, "Welcome to Dallas, Texas." How can you prove, though, that that's actually Dallas, Texas? The only reason that's Dallas, Texas is a stack of paperwork in the courthouse. That's the only reason. It's also agreed upon. Who made the line that makes Dallas touch another state? And who says that you're actually in another state if you jump across that line? We have a place in the world where people go. It's got like 4 states, and you can literally stand. I think it's called like 4 Corners. Tell me what the name of it is if it hits you guys before me, because it's on the tip of my tongue. But people travel all the way to this point, okay? And I don't know why, but my Facebook comments are not coming up automatically, and I'm having to scroll down for them. I hate that it's doing that. I hope it changes. But it's a place called the 4 Corners, I believe, right? And so you can go stand in all 4 states at the same time. And people travel to this place, right? Believing that they're actually in 4 states, but what they're on are 4 imaginary lines that man created and said that they were 4 states. You're not really in 4 states. Some of us are travelers. We love to explore the world, and we drive, right? We drive through many states, and we get out and we want our feet to touch the ground on every single state and take photos in every single state, claiming we've been to every state. But there is no such thing. You believe in you are trapped by the matrix if you believe states exist. These are just ways we find places geographically. More of our calculations. Please understand something, and I'm going to show you there because someone asked me a question. Are you crazy? Yes, depending on who you ask. Because how do you know you're sane? And I'm gonna get to that too. That's a really good question. Are you crazy? Are you? Some of us may be, and it just depends on how you look at it. Some of y'all are wild out by this. These places don't exist, family. They're just ways for us to find them. I want you to think about something. We live in a three-dimensional world, right? This means that you can look to your left and your right, and you have visuals, right? You can look up and down, and you have a visual, a different visual. You can look forward, and you can look backward, and you have a visual, 3D, three-dimensional plane we live on, right? Now, I want to show you something. This is proof that we live actually on more than one dimensional plane, even if it's through our calculations of the matrix. Living inside the matrix gives you a fourth dimension. I'm going to explain something to you. Here's why. Let's just say I name these places, okay? Dallas, Texas, right? Let's say a popular place. Let's say Vicky lives in Dallas, Texas, right? So I'm going to go see Vicky, right? So I'm going to tell Callie, Ricky, hey, listen, man, we're going to go to Vicky's. We're going to have a meeting at Vicky's in Dallas. Okay, where's Vicky located? I would give them a geographical direction to where she lives. Now, none of this means anything, but this geographical machine that you have, your GPS, is going to take you to this place, right? But it doesn't mean she really lives on this certain street, right? It's just what things that we have identified to help us navigate the world. This is not natural. The world, like a deer would not know what street that Vicky lived on. You know what I'm saying? But if I wanted to get you to Vicky, I can tell you the latitude and the longitude of where Vicky is located. And I can only do that by using street signs, road maps, right? So if I told, and of course a number sign of her house or whatever. Now, if I were to tell you that you're going to go longitude and latitude and give you coordinates, you probably wouldn't be able to locate it because you don't have that type of device, right? Which would be probably more accurate, but who's to say that what the directional numbers are that we apply to them anyway? It's just ways for us to navigate, right? So back to the point. I've given you now Vicky's address, right? The state, the town, the city, the street, and the number of the house that's on the street. But that's three dimensions, right? I told you where it was, right? You already know where it was, so you know how to find it in this three-dimensional plane. But what time you got to be there? If you miss the time, which is something that doesn't really exist, you may not get there at the same time as us, and you can miss this meeting entirely. I never said when. Now I'm forced to use things that actually only exist in this matrix to even navigate this matrix. This makes it complicated. It's because time don't exist, right? What's up, Tony? Because time does not exist, correct? But can you exist without time? Can you imagine life without it? We socially live in 2019. Socially, not actually. We don't even know what year it is. Check this out. When Neo, right? When Neo woke up, from Morpheus woke Neo up, Neo asked, where are we, right? And Morpheus like, the main question is, when are we, right? Everything that you know of is false. Everything. And this is the mind-blowing thing, because when you watch The Matrix, you get that you're not where you're supposed to be. Even when Neo's sitting in that chair and he takes the red pill and he can see himself turning into a mirror, because he touches the mirror and he can see the mirror or whatever absorbing his body. And they are trying to locate Neo. But in Neo's mind, he's sitting right here. They're trying to find Neo, though. They're looking right at Neo, as far as Neo knows. And Neo's like, in his mind thinking, what do you mean you're trying to find me? I'm right here. But what they were looking for was Neo's actual physical body. What Neo was seeing was not his physical body. It was his projected mental image of himself. That wasn't Neo. So he's somewhere in a vat of KY jelly right? Having its energy absorbed by materials, by machinery, forgive me. And they're filtering in a reality through his mind, and he doesn't even know. He has no clue, nor can he prove this is not happening. Neither could we. So what do you do with that? Because it's the time that locks us in. James says, especially if the earth is 4.5 billion years old. What year do we live in, family? We just accept it. And for whatever reason, that makes us feel comfortable. But why? You don't bit more know what year you're in than anything by saying 2019. By all of us agreeing that we are in the year of 2019, does that make us any more in the year 2019 than it was if we said it was 2030? Yes or no? All of us agreeing that it's 2019, does that actually make it 2019? Yes or no? Yes or no? What's up, Gina? Peace to you. I didn't say that, Tony. Don't get ahead of me. No, right, okay. Melanin, no. Melvin, no. No. All of us agreeing that it is 2019. That is a social contract. But it doesn't make it 2000. The universe doesn't care what we claim. You understand? So why are we comfortable with something when that does not give us an answer at all? Because it helps us navigate. That's literally it. Your matrix can make you feel comfortable even when your world is chaotic, even when you have no clue of your world. Again, if I were to tell Ricky, Callie, and all of the guys to meet us at Vicky's house in Texas, in Dallas, Texas, name the street, the house number, and everything, if I do not give them a constructed time to be there, they will not know when to be there. This adds a fourth dimension. Where and when? When do I have to be there? But time doesn't exist. So how do you get when? Y'all like, good. Well, y'all don't know what to think right now. I know this is crazy. And this is the thing I'm talking about. When your mind seems to think on a normal plane, you're called sane, right? But when your mind thinks a little bit farther, you're called insane, crazy even. Yes, I can say that. Yes, I'm crazy if you like that term, or malfunctioning, because I don't think like a robot, right? When you don't think like you've been programmed to think, of course, you appear by default to robots to be malfunctioning. You appear by people who believe that they're truly sane to be insane, because you're not saying what everyone else has agreed upon. So if I'm out in the middle of the street saying we do not live in 2019, this is not the year of 2019, without giving proper context to that, you would have every right to think I'm crazy, because we have socially accepted that we're in the year 2019, and we believe it so strongly that we don't even argue about it. And there are people who literally have not put in the thought that we say we live in 2019, and we know the planet's not 2019 years old. Why? How can man have power to change the time? This is what I'm telling you. We always ask, who created us in our origin story? Where did we come from? The dust when God spoke? Where did we come from? A big bang? Where did we come from? Breath when Brahma spoke? What happened? How did we get here? But instead of asking that question, ask, who's creating you now? This is what I'm telling you. Your mind is the only thing that you're going to recognize as you, your consciousness. Who's creating you now? Because your reality is shaped by what you learn. So who's creating you right now? The sheer fact that you live in 2019 is by programming. It's by creation. So who did that? Who's hands-on with you? Who do you learn from? Do you think for yourself? These are things you should think about yourself. Think for yourself. Because a matrix is anything presented to you as a structure or program that you have to think within. Remember when Neo and Morpheus were fighting? And Morpheus was beating Neo, right? And he couldn't seem to keep up with Neo. And Morpheus asked him, why do you think that is? Why do you think you can't keep up with me? And Neo said, you're stronger and you're faster. And Morpheus said what? Do you really think that my speed and my strength makes any difference in this place? That's something to think about. Because Neo at this point had to recognize something. I'm not actually here in this place, nor in this time. I'm not in Dallas, Texas, and I'm not there at 5 o'clock. So then where am I? And that's when the brain starts saying, okay, All you know is that you're on planet Earth. And that's even man-made. The name of that. So where are you? In the universe? Well, that's even man-made. Where are you and when are you? We don't know where we are nor when we are. The only thing that makes us feel comfortable is that we think we know, or we've agreed upon it, so we can stop, I guess, panicking about it. So once Neo realized that he was actually in a chair, okay, Morpheus says, think about this, brother, okay? This is your projected image that you see right now. Notice your hair is back. Notice you don't have the plugs in the back of your head. This is who you used to look like when you were in the Matrix, right? This is a self-created image. This is how you picture yourself. The real you is outside, is in the Nebuchadnezzar, which is a ship, and you're plugged into a chair experiencing this. So your actual physical strength nor your speed has nothing to do with you in this place. And Neo had to think about that. So if I'm still bound by the rules in which I used to live in, how am I going to actually escape the rules of the fake matrix? Because I'm in here, I believe it. I believe these rules. So if I believe in time, then time must exist. If I believe in speed, then it must exist. Neo had to think of himself outside of that, and instead of using his physical body, he had to use his mind. Now, somebody said here, I'm stuck in the matrix, right? I still play musician in church. Anybody caught that when he first came on? This means he's still using his body, just like Neo was. I'm still using my body in the matrix, right? But if I start using my mind, it can exceed my body. You see what I'm saying? If I start using my mind, I can break down the whole matrix. This is why you have the conversation about the spoon. The spoon don't really exist. So if you're trying to bend something that doesn't really exist, you'll never be successful. What you have to do is realize that the spoon is not there, and then reality itself will bend. Thus, the spoon will appear to bend. This is what he's saying. You can't bend time by trying to bend time. You must first recognize that time is a construct. It does not exist. I cannot change Kevin until I first recognize that Kevin is a construct. Kevin does not exist. When you say the name Kevin, it does not actually define me, right? Just as when you say the name water, it doesn't define it. Water is something that is far more complex than the name that we gave it. This is why I say language is basic, and we apply in basic language to nature, which is complex. And that has literally the words we use to describe stuff doesn't describe it. And we're okay with calling it that, thinking that gives us knowledge of it. You don't know what water is. None of us do. It's H2O, sure. A hydrogen molecule and 2 oxygen molecules. Okay. Still, what does that make it? Why does your body need to survive? Where does it come from? Where does it go? Why is your body able to use it? Is the kicker. You didn't make it, nor do you know what it is, but your body does. Your body actually knows how to process water. It's filled with water, right? It needs it to survive, yet you didn't make it. See, we knew what fuel was before we created the automobile. But in thinking, we created an automobile that didn't need fuel. Well, we're going to need water, and we don't have any control over that. Grady said water is life. But what is life? Again, using the word life to define experience is a basic word. Again, it's trying to describe something that's complex. What is life? Let's think about that in itself. We say, I'm thankful for life. I'm thankful that I have life. So life can be obtained. Life is something that you have, right? But how can you have it? Where is it? On you. Where do you keep it? What are you calling life? Reality? What you're experiencing? Because if water is life, then water can't work the same way because we can see water, right? Water's tangible. So what is life? Again, language. And I'm not saying that you're wrong, because I definitely get what you're trying to say. Water is life. It gives us life. Absolutely. So I'm not for sake of argument, I'm just challenging us. William says, I'm still stuck in the matrix. Again, life is a Germanic word. Absolutely. So is king, but we still call ourselves that, right, Adrian? And does the word king not inspire us, even though it's Germanic? I love messing with y'all. I do, because I think that we do things right, and we don't really think much about them, you know, and we give them so much meaning without realizing. Like, we'll come down on European ideas, and we'll of course hold up high our heritage, which is fine. We should, but we hold one up over the other, right? But we still identify ourselves as kings. But where did we get that? That's a Germanic word. And why do we feel pride in it? Isn't it true that you can feel pride with any word if you're taught how to see the word? So why hold one symbol over the other if really the only difference is your mind? As much as I love the Ankh and as much as I dislike the cross, they are no different. They're just shapes and symbols. It's what you see when you see it. The power's in your mind. Do you actually really think that if I create a shape of an Ankh and a shape of a cross, that nature cares anything different about these shapes? That literally animals do? Deer, ducks, geese? No. We care about this stuff. Right? So if you hold up something in your culture that has meaning, and then another person holds up something in their culture that has meaning, what makes the symbol more powerful than the other? Are they actually going to jump off the walls and fight? Or are we going to be sitting here arguing about what their symbol actually means, what ours means, as if there's actually any power in the symbol other than what meaning you apply to the symbol? Just watching, family. I'm watching two screens. Again, family, share this. Please share it for me. Adrian, and that's perfectly fine. See, she says, the Ankh is dear to me because it's ours. She said, I identify with this because it's art and it's my own culture's design. That's absolutely fine. If you guys did not know, African art is literally one of the most valuable things on the planet right now. It's more valuable than gold or diamonds, simply because they're not making any more of it. It is very old, it's ancient, and the art is impeccable. So if you can obtain any of these artifacts, you're gonna want to do that. And I'm not telling you by owning the artifact, it's gonna somehow awaken your inner DNA, and you're gonna come out with ancient superpowers and be able to see Sirius B from behind the refrigerator. But I am saying that, having pieces that was designed by your people, by your ancient cultures and stuff like that, is really beautiful. And like I said, it's worth a lot of money. And so you can invest in these type of things for later down the road. People are doing that now. You see a lot of people who actually don't care much for African art and culture still own a lot of stuff. So again, invest in it. It's beautiful stuff. Like the symbolism. I go to African museums all the time. I love how they built stuff and how they designed, their artifacts. Thank you very much, Monique. Actions speak louder than words. I love how they design their artifacts and all. What stands out to me mostly is how they use the reptile, because of course you're going to use animals and stuff that's prevalent in your area. This is why I say you can't project one person's symbols over the other, because when you look at African culture, notice how they use the snake a lot and the lizard a lot. Well, it doesn't mean that the snake and the lizard are very powerful animals. It means that these animals, they observed a lot and they were able to pull a lot of philosophy from these animals. So to speak, when you see a lizard on a door, carving on a door, right? And Alex and Latoya can tell you, man, this is a spot in Atlanta we went to, had a lot of stuff. I went by there and got a piece too a couple of months back when we did the meet and greet in Atlanta. But you'll see a lot of artifacts that have lizards and snakes, and what they're pulling from that is this. Thank you very much, Bree. So you got lizards and reptiles. Well, one of the things that they do is they shed their skin. And so when you find a lizard or reptile skin, the hide, it sheds the whole skin. So you can see what looked like he took off a jacket, right? And to them, it more so symbolized immortality. You didn't die, but you were born again. You were reborn again. And we apply this to ourselves because, of course, our DNA, it dies, right? Even inside of our body, it dies, it replicates, and we're creating all new cells as we speak. Your body will be totally new in a few years. This is a fact. So we look at this serpent or this reptile or this lizard, we say, okay, I can identify with that. But also, it has deep philosophical meaning. What does it mean to be born again? It means to truly see the world differently, to have fresh eyes again. When you are a baby, there's no understanding of the world via language or math. You get a fresh start to observe the world and rationalize the world the way you see fit. Well, when you say I'm born again, what you're saying is I've came into a new frame of thought, I've got a new perspective, a new peephole, so to speak, right? A new peephole. I'm seeing another perspective. So this is where you say you're born again. And the art's beautiful. Don't get me wrong. It's absolutely beautiful. Because these are the animals that they observed. Again, when you look at their symbols, when you look at Toph coming from a bird, when you look at Anubis coming from a dog or a jackal, these are things that they looked at in their surroundings and gathered meaning from it. It doesn't mean that the jackal actually had meaning. So what you get when you look at African culture is the brilliance of their mind, the beauty of their mind, I should say, the freedom to be able to create your own philosophy based on the world that you see around you. They were actually able to think. They were actually able to observe the world and put into thought how they saw the world. This is what makes culture and the history of your culture beautiful, because they didn't go through what we go through being taught how to think. They were some of the first to think. So they put things together and rationalized it freely and made it make sense the best way. And they use animals and pictures to do it. And you looking back, that can seem archaic and basic, but we go back to then and learn more from those time frames. In either culture, you can do this in European culture, Aztec culture, Mayan culture, Chinese culture, Hindu culture. You can do this in many cultures and go back and gain frames of knowledge that will blow your mind. Like some of these philosophers from way back then were saying stuff that will blow your mind today. And really, they were using basic language. They didn't have all the words that we use today. So, of course, in trying to understand the world, we create more words in the English language. We create more mathematical calculations to try to observe the world, right? We have what we call light years. Most of us don't even know what that means. Light years is a distance. It's a measurement, not a time. And that's freaking weird, right? Who came up with this? And so you don't just have time as 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. You have time as far as light years. And that's used as a measurement for distance, like you using a freaking ruler or something, right? Like a tangible ruler. The equator doesn't exist. You can't tie a single person up with the equator. It's an imaginary line. And we all talk about it as if it's really real. You see what I'm saying? There is no such thing. These are things that we make up in our mind to try to derive meaning from the world, but the world doesn't have intent to mean these things. So how do you separate your mind from the matrix? How do you see people as organisms trying to survive rather than seeing them as human, black, white, male, female, Christian, Presbyterian, Catholic, Hindu, Presbyterian, I said it already, any other religion that you can think of, and then atheists? How do you see people outside of that? How do you see people outside of their name or their title? Again, I'm not Kevin Wesley. Kevin Wesley is a construct. Saying my name does not identify me at all. I could show you someone else named Kevin Wesley. So if you say that name, in that sequence. You're not defining me. You're just trying to bring reference to me, right? I know a guy named Kevin Wesley, but that doesn't tell you anything about this person. So really, who are you? If you're not who you see in the mirror, because that can't be you. You didn't ask for the body you live in, right? You didn't ask for your face. You didn't ask for your height. You didn't even ask what condition that you would be born in. You don't have a choice. We didn't have a choice. So no one should be judged based on how they came into this world. Agree or disagree? Regardless of history. Regardless of history. Regardless of history, family. Agreed. Agreed. Okay, perfect. Agreed. None of us should be judged for how we came into this existence, how we came into this reality, or having the knowledge of this reality, because none of us had a choice in it. You didn't get to pick your parents. You didn't get to pick what we call your race. You didn't get to pick the geographical place that you would live or the conditions of the geographical place that you would live. You're completely subject to just randomness. 100% you are. And when you think the world around you is happening, it's literally happening everywhere. In a world that seems quiet, a forest that seems so quiet, you can lift up a rock and see a whole ecosystem of worms and bugs doing their thing under it. They're not thinking about you. They have their own reality. Life is happening everywhere. You are happening. Like you're happening just as much as the wind is blowing by. You're not in control. You are a force of nature, to be honest with you. Again, you don't control your breathing. You don't control the fact that you need to eat or anything like that. You don't control the fact that you can feel the air touch your skin. You don't tell your body to gauge the temperature in the air so you can feel how cold it is before you go out. All you got to do is just open the door. All you have to do is just be outside, and your body is 100% always on alert. It's going to let you know when you're cold or hot, and you don't have to turn it off. Appreciate that, Sensei. So your biological vessel is going to take charge. Women don't get to decide when their eggs, when their body can produce, when they hit their puberty, right? They don't decide how many eggs they come into this world with, right? These things have already been decided. The amount of babies a woman will have is based on the amount of eggs that she came into this world with. And even though she may not be able to produce these children at an early age, it doesn't mean they're not there. So they didn't snap into existence when she hit puberty. They were already there. Could this not be the same with everything inside of you? When you were born and you were just this little baby, right? Could you have not possibly had every tool that you needed already inside of you to survive, and they're just being awakened as they're being pushed or as you're being pressed, right? You back a cat against a wall, the claws were already there, right? When you push a child to the point that they defeat their bully, that fight was already there. They just had to be pushed into it, right? So you are happening. When you get to the end of your life, are you more of you than you were when you started? Think about that. Through all the knowledge and experience that you obtain, you still may weigh about the same, right? Than is when you first started, right? So really, what's the point of it all? The only thing that's going to separate you from another person in life is your experiences. And your experiences can only come from your own scenery, your own geographical area, which limits us because I can only experience what I'm in front of daily. This is why it's crazy for us to look across the planet and tell someone else what they believe in and what they dedicate their lives to isn't true. And growing up as believers, this is what we were trained to do. We thought that was okay. Deem what everyone else does as devil worship or witchcraft, just because we don't do it. And that makes us feel comfortable about what we're doing. We did the same thing with that. So how do you free your mind from the matrix? Again, how do you see someone and not see gender or race or religious identification or sexual identification? How can you look at a person and just truly see an organism that's trying to survive? Isn't that what every being on the planet is? An organism that's trying to survive? Tell me if I'm wrong, family. Exactly, Juan Hood said. Exactly. We're all trying to survive. This is why we have sex to produce. I talked a little bit about this, but a spider. A spider will avoid a bird because a bird is its predator. Now we're talking about a male spider. A male spider will avoid all of their natural predators in order to preserve its life. But it will freely give its life to a female spider for sex. And I don't mean just give them sex. I mean it's going to die after it mates with this female spider. And yet it's willing to do this, but it will run from a predator. Someone please tell me what you think the reason for this is. If you were just observing the world on your own, what would you say the reason for this is? That's what's up, Adrian. Thank you for joining us. Why will a spider avoid its natural predators in order to preserve its life, but will freely sacrifice its life for sex with a female spider? Why do we believe that a spider would do that? Melvin Hayes says self-preservation. Now, what's crazy is that's the answer really to both questions. I got to go back and give you some props on that because Melvin Hayes Jr., dude, you said self-preservation. It's the same answer. A spider will avoid a predator for self-preservation, but it will also give up its life to a female spider for the same exact reason, even though it dies. But please tell me how living is self-preservation in one scenario, but dying is self-preservation in the second. Now, who can tell me that? Because you answered it right. You're right. But can you tell me why it's different? Michaela, there you go, sweetie. I hope you're doing well, by the way. Thank you for all your support during my time, even though you was down too. You mean the world to me. Inbox me and let me know how you're doing. So listen, Michaela hit it right on the head, family. Self-preservation in the second concept is so your life continues on through their eggs. This spider will freely give its life because it believes that it lives on through its eggs. It lives on through its clones. It lives on through its repeated DNA. Its children, if you will, its baby spiders. It doesn't think that these children are separate from it. It doesn't see itself as an individual spider. It sees itself as intrinsically connected to all. And it's trying to survive its species. It's not thinking about itself. We are very self-centered. We can't see ourselves outside of our personality, and the Matrix gave you that. Wow. Personality. What does that mean? Person comes from a word called persona, which means mask. It means the person that you go out and play, the role that you play, the person that you think you are. Kevin Wesley, right? This is part of my personality, the part that I identify with that. My race would be considered black to those who believe in the Matrix. I identify with that, right? I identify with being conscious, right? I identify with being a non-believer. All of these things identify with my persona, but not the fact that my heart beats without me telling it to. Not the fact that my DNA is replicated from my ancestors and I didn't tell it to. Not the fact that my cheekbones look like my great-great-great-grandfather's and I don't even know what he looked like. You understand what I'm saying? There's two planes we live on. There's an organic plane where the world is just happening and we have no control over that. And then there's a part of the world that we focus on that we think is real, and that world is called the Matrix. If you were truly asleep and dreaming you were here, your organic body would be still working, right? Because we have a consciousness. The one thing we're sure about is that we can think. We do think. And that's the one thing we don't doubt. We can doubt that I'm holding this cup. We can doubt that this reality is real. But we don't doubt that we're thinking about holding this cup and thinking about this reality being real or not. So it's safe to say that we don't doubt having a consciousness. But what is our consciousness attached to? Is it attached to this vessel here? Are we really here? Or are we somewhere else? What if I told you that? Now, listen now, I'm not trying to mess with y'all, but y'all can look this up. Science has not proven that consciousness is in your brain. We can't, I said we like I'm a scientist. They cannot find, and I say we because it's human beings, and you know how we say we build airplanes, we created electricity, we have done amazing feats as mankind when most of us can't do any of these things. If the whole planet ended right now, I couldn't build a plane. I couldn't create light. I couldn't create peanut butter, right? But I like to give myself credit by saying man did it. And hey, I'm man, so it makes me feel smart. And you do it too. So we have not found, or science have not found, the area in which consciousness is located. So what if you are truly outside of yourself? Think about this. Think about this. Deidre said, I think we're somewhere else. Christ Cipher, you're absolutely right. This is absolutely philosophy. I am not stating facts. I am philosophizing. Philosophy is the ability to learn the world through just thought and talking. So me on live, I didn't answer because I'm on live, but I'll hit you back. But goodness, I lost my thought. I hate that. Yeah, okay. It's not, if I say this, that imagine we are somewhere else and not in this place. What if we're in a bed sleeping right now? What if we're plugged into a chair or something with things on our head and we're dreaming of this world, right? Hang on. Right. So that's not an assertion. It's not me saying that there could be truth to this. It's saying, hey, just walk with me. Let's think about this. Let's open up the silly thoughts that we have, get rid of those, so it narrows down the truth, right? So it's just philosophy. But if you cannot find out if you cannot see consciousness in your brain, the first thing someone will say, well, when a person gets brain damage, right? We can see that when a person gets brain damage or a brain disease, such as amnesia, right, or Alzheimer's, right? It can directly affect the brain, which does affect the memory, which does seem to affect the consciousness. So consciousness is in the brain. And that's a logical standpoint, but you have to continue that thought, right? So say someone proposes that, right? We may not be able to locate consciousness in the brain, but there has been people that got into accidents that lost their ability to remember, right? Lost their ability to move and navigate their bodies or even think clearly after the fact due to the accident. And of course, brain diseases such as amnesia and Alzheimer's, these things can alter people's memories, cause them to not be able to remember or learn, totally change their cognitive abilities, right? But does that really mean that consciousness is still located in the brain? Yes or no, family? The fact that this is a fact, a person can have a brain disease and lose access to their cognitive abilities, cognitive faculties, or a person can get in a car accident and the same thing can happen. Gerald said, I believe that it is. Okay, let's just play devil's advocate, because here's the thing, just not completely, okay? Because if you're trying to prove something, the key is to try to prove it wrong. You want to poke holes in your own theory. And if you don't know how to do that, then you have to realize what you're probably thinking is irrational anyway. So we really need to be focused on, can we disprove that theory? I like that, Deidre. She thinks that life is a test to be one with nature and move on. Okay, Deidre says no to that. I would say no too. I say no, it does not absolutely mean that consciousness is found in the brain. Here's why. Let's take your computer or your cell phone or your TV. The signal itself is not in the device. It's somewhere else. I can destroy my phone or open the computer or open the back of my TV and remove some plugs around, and that would change the output, but it doesn't mean that the signal is still in the device. It just changes the device's ability to receive the signal. So maybe if you get amnesia, Alzheimer's, get into a bad car accident, maybe it's messing up the ability to receive your actual signal to the place that you actually are. What if this vessel is just a puppet? What if you're playing The Sims right now and you did it and you made yourself forget? What would be the point of doing this if you remembered? We talked about this yesterday. If you could go to sleep and dream any dream you wanted, you could have lived 80 years, woman of your dream, having beautiful children. You can go to sleep and wake up 8 hours later and had lived 120 years doing something else. Different scenario, different time frame. Imagine this. Tonight I'm going to go to sleep and I want to live in 325 AD. And I want to live 60 years. I would be willing to do this because I know it's just a dream. So regardless of how hard it seems, regardless of how trying it would be, I'll just wake up. And I've had bad dreams before, so I can do this, right? Eventually, I would end up with the exact dream or life that I have right now. We'd have to assume this. If we could design whatever dream we wanted and live whatever dream we wanted to live, and the only prerequisite was that we couldn't remember any other dream before that, or the fact that we knew we were dreaming, or the fact that we designed it ourselves, right? You wouldn't know. And eventually you would have the same life you have right now. And you would be trying to make sense of the rules that's placed on that reality, not realizing that they're not even rules. It's just what we say. We say that okay, the law of gravity. We say that there is a law of gravity which presupposes that someone created a law of gravity. That's not the case. We're calling it a law simply because we can't defy it. That's not to presuppose that there is a law, though. We just call it a law because when we make laws, they are not to be defied. So if we can't defy something, we call it a law, but it doesn't mean it was given to us as a law. It just means we call it one. So there's no law of gravity. We don't know that nature said, I'm going to create rules to flying or rules to anything. Right, Grady. Who made the rule? We make laws to try to make sense of our reality. This is what I mean. Go all the way back before you have books and you have governments that control how you think and control what you read. You would be learning the world by looking at nature. So your only knowledge of the world comes from the world. It's almost like trying to prove the Bible with the Bible. If you can't look at anything outside of it and measure it against something else, how can you say it's real or fake? This is why we don't know if our reality is real or fake, because we can't measure. We don't know what life is like without this. We don't know even how to look at it. We've never been to a Mars. We've never been to the sun. We simply believe these things are there because they tell us. In fact, the sun never said it was the sun. This is another name that we give it. The sun doesn't rise for us, right? The sun does not have intention, or do we believe that? Have we became to the point where we walked away from religion, but we still hold on to thoughts that we don't really dig into? Do we really believe that the sun has an intent on people? Do we believe that the sun burns people because it wants to? Or do we believe that it's something else? Maybe it's the organism's ability to adapt to this world, and they have not achieved that yet. Just as new organisms, when they come into this planet all the time, they are adapting and strengthening their race or their genetic pool through sex, right? And adaptation. But because an organism struggles with one climate and not another, we can't assume that that climate has an intent on destroying that organism, right? If we take a polar bear to, Milwaukee, right? That polar bear probably wouldn't be able to survive because the climate would change. If you take a fish out of water, it wouldn't be able to breathe. But that's not to suppose that air itself is choking the fish. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's the fish doesn't have the ability to breathe outside of the water. If you jump in water, that doesn't mean that the water itself is drowning you. It means that we don't have the physical capabilities to survive underwater. But we apply intent to the sun, but not water when someone drowns. Can we demonstrate that the sun really thinks? Can we demonstrate that the sun attacks people? Right. Right, Gerald. Living and existing in any environment will require certain capabilities, right? This is why whenever you go scuba diving, you actually put on a helmet, right? So you can give yourself oxygen because you know you don't have lungs. Yeah, we create intent to offer gratitude or blame. That's absolutely right, Christ Cipher. We create intent. The intent is not, it's not from that object to us. It's what we create about that object. So let's say that we observe the jackal digging up shallow graves and eating the entrails of our relatives that have passed on. And by default, we learn that this is how you prolong the body's decomposition. So a person's body can be preserved longer if you remove the entrails. This is without adding chemicals. So us observing the jackal doing this is not the jackal teaching us this. It is us learning from the jackal, but we give the jackal credit because we learned from it, but it doesn't give the jackal intent on showing us. Like the jackal didn't think, let me show these people how to embalm or preserve dead bodies, preserve their dead. No, neither did the jackal know that by eating the entrails, it was preserving the dead. The jackal would have no horse in that race. Why would it care if a body of the body of a person who was in a shallow grave, if their body preserved slower than the next? It wouldn't care. There would be no reason. It's nothing in it for the jackal to teach a human how to preserve their dead. There's nothing in it. Believe me, there's nothing in it for a jackal to have his head carved in stone. It doesn't care. But yet and still, we give credit to the jackal. It just shows that we have a need to do this, right? We have a need to do this. The topic, family, is mentally escaping the matrix. Escaping it mentally. We were taught to see the world a certain way. And how do we not see it a certain way, right? If you're still in it, if you're still in fact in it, if we still, navigate our days by using landmarks that were created by man, right? And using time that was created by man, how can we get to a point to where we can see each other outside of the matrix? We had a discussion earlier. Is not every organism on this planet trying to survive? Is this not why they have sex? Is this not why they choose certain sexual partners to create a stronger line? This is why a spider will give its life to a female spider to preserve its life, but it will also avoid a predator to preserve its life, because that spider believes that by giving its life to that mother, to that soon-to-be mother spider, it actually lives longer through the offspring. And it would do this as soon as possible. Spiders try to do this as young as possible because the younger they are, the more nutrients they'll have in their bodies when their own young feeds on them. It's unreal. Or the more powerful their sperm would be to be able to create a stronger organism moving forward. Again, a spider doesn't know it's a spider. They don't think that way. They don't think as in just themselves. Again, the problem that we've made is that I think Kevin is separate from nature because Kevin has a name. Nalisha may think that Nalisha is separate from the universe because Nalisha has a name, but you're not. And all it takes is us to die to prove it. When you die, you seem to have no problem going right back to the earth where you came from. But when we're alive, we seem to have every problem in the world relating to that we are the earth. We are what we see. When you look at nature, you're looking at you. You're no different because you have a name and a personality. This doesn't separate us from reality. It's just a way to identify ourselves in this matrix. You understand? But the world is no different. It's crazy because we really think that by giving ourselves names, titles, and things of that nature, that we are really truly separate when we're not. If every organism on this planet, okay, every organism on this planet is really trying to survive, and I'm not talking about your mental state, I'm talking about your biological meat suits. Every single person or being on this planet is trying to continue itself, right? It's trying to duplicate itself, right? We often get upset when we hear animals are going extinct, even though we technically don't have a horse in that race, right? And genuinely, they go extinct due to a lot of us going and killing them for ridiculous reasons, not recognizing that they are organisms just like us. So we go out and we kill different animals to feel better about ourselves, call ourselves hunting and trophy hunting, right? We'll kill an elephant just to take its tusks, you know. We kill rhinos just to take their horns. We kill rabbit just to take their feet. And it's all because we believe in the Matrix. Silly stuff. There's a thing that we really can't seem to understand. We seem to be the only beings on this planet that think to the degree that we think. That does seem to set us apart. We seem to be the only beings that seem to question our existence, right? To look for and search for, and also create meaning in the world. We seem to be the only beings that do this. But what separates us organically? What separates us biologically? Because again, when a cow dies in a few years, that cow would have vanished from this planet. When we die in a few years, our bodies would have vanished from this planet as if it never existed. I said this yesterday. That is magic, family. Just because you can see it happening slowly doesn't take away from it being magic. Okay, the fact that we live and we are also biodegradable when we die, and then we also become food to the earth is magic in and of itself. We can't explain that, right? Just because you can see it happening. If someone does a magic trick, if I just vanished right now, every one of you guys would say that was amazing. But if you could slow it down by fractions of a second and see how I done it, does it take away from the magic? No, it doesn't. Let's see here. Ross says that we're the only beings that can or will commit suicide. You never see an animal try to kill itself because it was sad or depressed. And maybe that comes from viewing the Matrix. Maybe the Matrix is what makes us feel like we don't belong. When they came to Neo, they said, you recognize that something's wrong. He said, you can't see it. You can't put your fingers on it, but you know it's something wrong. You know it's something wrong with the world, and you just cannot figure out what it is. And Morpheus is telling them it's all around you. It's the Matrix, bro. It's all around you, right? You can taste it, you can touch it, but you don't know it's there. You don't know it's there. We don't know what's real from fake. I was talking to my son about like shapes. And I was telling him that shapes don't exist, actually. They are just ways of understanding, ways that we learn. And he's like, what you mean shapes don't exist? I learned about triangles and squares and octagons and stuff like that in school. Of course, shapes exist in the realm of education, but shapes do not exist in reality, in nature. You don't see squares growing naturally. You don't see spheres or circles growing naturally, nor do you see octagons growing naturally. This is something that we learn in education, but these things don't happen in reality. My son said, well, that's a door. And he's 13 now. This was years ago. He's probably 10. This is a door, and it's made out of real wood, and it's a rectangle. Yes, son, but the door didn't grow that way. Like no tree grows out in the shape of a door. Right, we cut this door is actually several pieces of wood that have been pressed together to make this door, right? If you look at it, son, it's this, and this, right? And I explained to him look at this door. You can see how it's made. It has a frame to it. This is built. Things don't come out in nature looking like this. So this is the difference, recognizing that some things we use to navigate the world with via understanding, and that's mathematics, language, shapes, names of cities, states, names of animals and organisms. These are all tools that we use to be able to navigate, but they have no weight on the actual world. A caterpillar does not know it's a caterpillar, nor does it think like that. And a butterfly is already still a caterpillar, or the caterpillar was already a butterfly the entire time. We just call it something different because we've witnessed the change, but it's still the same organism. It didn't become something totally different. It's still who it is. I just think having these conversations, man, really help us to think about a lot of the things that we done came to agreement on that they real. And a lot of these things we argue and debate about, and there's no need to, because once you realize you're in the matrix, man, the way to escape the matrix is to just live your life, honestly. Try to see people outside of how you've been taught to see them. And it's something that you really have to keep in the forefront of your mind at all times, because if you don't, hey. Someone says bees are from octagons. Again, octagons don't grow in reality. Like you might have a shape, or say like you said, a honeycomb or whatever, but all honeycombs are not shaped the same. And in fact, it's just a shape. It's just something we call an octagon. Because octagon, remember, it doesn't exist. It's a word we made up. And what would be the point of it in navigating your reality? What use would knowing shapes be in the jungle? And if you don't know how to take care of yourself when it's cold? What use would knowing the laws of Ma'at be for you if you're trapped in a desert, right? Or a rainforest, and you don't know how to build your own shelter and take care of your own organism? This is what I mean. The Matrix is beautiful. You can learn a lot of things, right? You can learn a lot of things. Again, indeed, Ron, I agree. This will be saved as soon as I'm done. Right, Michaela. She says the golden ratio is the only shape that exists in nature, but only has a mathematical meaning to us, and that's only because we applied one to it by measuring it. It's absolutely right. And again, like even though learning all of this stuff is amazing, that information would do nothing for me in terms of building a fire. And this is what I mean. When we are removed from nature, we lose the ability to live by nature, to take care of ourselves by nature. When we create all these easier ways to survive off of and things like that, that's great. I'm always for progression. But what I'm not for is that we believe that these things are so real that they take prevalence over your actual life and preserving your life and taking care of yourself. Again, the laws of Ma'at would do you no favors if you were trapped in a rainforest for 2 weeks. If you don't have the ability to hunt or anything like that. That's right, William. Sometimes you got to pretend you're still in the matrix just to survive. And we do that all the time. We can't walk around all the time talking like this. We'd sound crazy, So we have to relate to the people in the matrix by simply acting like we believe in it. When Neo plugged into the matrix, he didn't go around shouting that, hey, I'm Neo and I'm here to change things. In fact, they moved very silently. When they knew agents were around, they got out. No need to risk your life, right? Because if you die, so could the mission, right? You need to get back to the Nebuchadnezzar, regroup, and come back again when it's safer instead of risking your life. What's up, Shy? Welcome in. So if you're just catching it, we're talking about mentally escaping the matrix. I was just saying that to start the video off, that we create language, we create math, and then somewhere along the way, we actually believe that the math that we create and the language that we create has anything to do with the actual world. When we created language, it was very basic, and we were trying to define a complex world. when we created math, it was very basic, and we're still trying to define a very complex world. And we think that our language or our mathematical abilities or calculations have anything to do with anything, and they don't. So how do you pull back? Because again, if this is just a person, a persona, a mask, then who is really you? Christ Cypher says language is not natural. I could get with that. I could understand that. And see, I think someone is talking about maybe the Quran or the Bible or something on YouTube, and a brother said, yeah, the Qurans have everything. Just read the Quran and you will know what the matrix is, or your reason for life. And then Gerald says, if the Quran had everything, you would not be here seeking attention and validation because you do not have the answers. And this is what I mean. We place faith in either our math, in our language, or our religions. And none of them have anything to do with the world. Because just like our language was built basic and archaic, our math was, especially when you compare it to the complex world. You can clearly see our religions was created the same way. They were very basic, trying to explain something complex. And this is why I say religion holds your mind back, because here we are in a different time, a different era, where we can truly, truly think for ourselves, and yet we can't see past religion. And we can't challenge religion, even though religion offers a very basic answer to how the world was created. We're still okay with that because we don't want to challenge the information that we was taught it was real. How can you move forward like that? See, if we're all organisms trying to survive, maybe what's holding us back from evolution is the things that keep us from thinking. We're not trying to transform, literally transform or evolve our biological bodies, such as a butterfly does when it evolves or metamorphoses from a caterpillar. We're not thinking that we can do that, but we are trying to evolve via our consciousness and our mindsets. We're not trying to grow any more opposable thumbs or any more limbs, or become immortal, so to speak, by changing our biological vessels. We're talking about evolving. We're talking about evolving through time, through sex, just as everything else evolved. So how are we going to evolve our minds if we dialed in on religion and we won't challenge it? When mentally is how we evolve, because we're not going to change, we're not going to power up and transform like we in Dragon Ball Z or something. The only way to truly transform is it's going to be in here. It's not going to be obvious in our physical anatomy that we have grown. You understand? And when you look at the world and you see like the things that we have created, from religions to technology, to your cell phone, to airplanes, to buildings, everything that you see in the world, literature, to poems, to music, came from the mind of man. Everything that you see, that you can recognize that's been created, came from our mind. It was in here at one point, which is a fake world, okay, an imaginary world, and we actually made it manifest into reality in front of us. Once someone thought of a plane, and now that plane exists in front of us. How can we move further, though, and create greater things and create greater feats if we're still bound to old ways of thinking, right? If I look at religion and it tells me the world got created because God spoke, if that's enough for me, that's going to quench my curiosity. Why would I want to learn anything past that? You understand? And we're still using archaic literature and archaic language to define a otherwise exceptional world. Like this world is so complex, we can't even begin to rationalize this world other than through our own perspectives, which really has no real meaning to the world. If I look at something and I say, that's purple, that's green, that's blue, that's orange, well, to a dog, they don't see like that. They just see black and white. But to this dog, it can smell different smells and be able to identify those smells where I won't be able to do that. And it can do this from miles away. It can do the same thing with hearing. Our perspectives are totally different. So our best concepts of rationalizing this world is only going to be to humans. So when you look up like chakra systems or the laws of Ma'at or anything like that, or the Mayan teachings or anything like that, they're for man to study. They don't have anything to do about the giraffe next door. Other animals or organisms can't benefit from our learned information. Do you understand? So basically, our learned information really has nothing to do with the actual world. It's just our ability to understand the world or trying to rationalize the world. It don't make what we say in facts. Again, an ankh can mean life to you, but it doesn't mean the ankh is life for itself. The ankh doesn't have a conscience. It didn't design itself. So the ankh has no meaning other than the meaning that you apply to it. So if we wear the ankh, that's beautiful, especially to the people that recognize the meaning of it. In fact, me and Shah was talking the other day about how people can walk by you and have like an ankh on, and immediately you will vibe with them. You'll look at them and be like, okay, now I see you, right? They could be a Christian. They could literally identify with anything. And we've seen this happen. I asked a brother one time who had an ankh. I was like, brother, that's dope. I didn't even know you thought like that because I grew up with him. And I saw him with an ankh on. I was in my hometown. And I was like, bro, I didn't even know you got down like that. And he was like, what you mean? And I was like, the ankh, bro. And he was like, oh, yeah. I've been on this stuff for a few months. And the more we kept talking, I realized that he had no clue what the ankh meant. He bought it because he thought it was cool. He seen some celebrities with it on. And he thought it was cool, but he didn't know what that meant. And to us, that's within the realm of awareness of the meaning of the ankh. We'll see someone wearing an ankh and a cross, and we'll say that's a blatant contradictory because we know the two meanings, they oppose one another. So how did you get to the point to where you're wearing them both with no conviction? You couldn't have put any study into what you're doing. It's not that the symbols have any type of power and that their chest or neck should explode by putting an evil charm or evil logo with a good logo or a blessed logo. We're not saying that. We're saying there's something wrong with your mind. It tells me a lot about you. If you're wearing the ankh, it tells me something about you, right? It doesn't tell me something about the ankh, right? If you have the Eye of Horus tattooed on you, that tells me something about you, but no I ever spoke and said, hey, I'm an I, right? And hold what I say over everything else or whatever. We do this. And it's okay. But what's foolish is actually thinking that it does have power. Right? Other than stones that actually have a literal magnetism to your body chemically, symbols won't do it. Now, based on cognitive reality, things you believe in so strongly that they become true, like on Space Jams when they drank the super juice, right? And they was all dunking, and then they realized that it was actually water afterwards. This cognitive reality. But this cognitive reality only works for you. It's not going to work for everybody around you unless they also have that same cognitive reality. If I truly believe I have a demon inside of me, and I also believe that crosses are holy, if a priest holds the cross up, I may respond in a fearful way. But however, if I don't know what that cross is, or I don't believe I have a demon in me, I won't mind that cross. It won't bother me at all. I'm not subject to that cross unless I believe in the attributes of that cross. Like the only reason we have crosses tattooed on us now, or that we wore crosses back in the day, or thought that crosses could cast out demons back in the day, and some of you may believe that now. The only reason you believe that is because we have TV, we have drama, we have Hollywood, and we have our ways of life that taught us these things. But other than that, we have no evidence to support that the cross is a powerful symbol on its own, that it can cast out demons or anything like that. We have no proof of that. Yet we all walked around with that belief. This shows you the failures of man's mind. It's called appeal to majority. I asked the question earlier. If everyone believes that we're in the year 2019, does that make us literally be in the year of 2019? And everyone said no. Well, if I had asked 10 years ago, why are you Christian? Most of us would have said where everybody else is, right? You think that if everybody believe in this, then it's got to be something to it. But if everybody believes we're in 2019 and we are absolutely not, period, because we know that we have AD, we know that we have BC, right? So we have different time frames that man has created. We know this. So we know we can't literally be living in 2019 unless we believe that if man says something, it changes time and everything. Right? So we know we're not in the year 2019. So we know that our belief or agreement in that socially has no indication on what year it's in. But if we believe it is, it's called appeal to majority. So at some point, we all agreed socially that Jesus was real. At one point, people agreed socially that Muhammad and Allah was real. Look into the history of Mansa Musa. Mansa Musa was the richest person that we know of recorded. And he was responsible for giving away so much money that it crippled the government. And he identified as Muslim, and not because he prayed to Allah. He identified to Muslim because socially it would open up more revenues of trade for him. Okay, he traded with a lot of Muslims. Okay, so economically and socially, this would help his businesses. So he just said, hey, I'm Muslim. If it means I can trade with you, then I will identify with your religion. I don't take it that seriously. This is what we've done in many cultures now. We do the same thing when we attach our DNA to Kappa, Alpha, all of these different sorority groups in school. We do the same thing with religions. These are social contracts that help you move forward in life. It helps you build relationships in life or maintain relationships in life, but they aren't real. They're just social commitments that you've agreed upon, social groups. That's it. And this is why I say if we can see the world outside of these things and recognize that we're really just organisms trying to survive, the rest comes from the mind of man and are no more true than anything else than tooth fairies. Okay? We can probably be on the way to being free. But when we identify with so many different groups and so many different things, we actually begin to believe that we're different. And that's where the problem comes into play. So how do you break out of the matrix? You have to see yourself as everyone else. You have to recognize that because you have a name and a personality, remember, personality means mask, comes from the word persona, meaning the role you play, your ideas about yourself, who you think you are, your ego. As long as you think that you are separate, you are part of the matrix. Truly escaping the matrix is to be able to be unified and see each other as an organism trying to survive. Can we do that? Because we concerned about how much money we have, how many resources that we have personally. And if our resources are low, we'll take someone else's. Or we will be upset at someone else because they have more resources than us. This all weighs on how men think. And so if we're really going to break away from the matrix and be unified, we have to see ourselves outside of it and see ourselves as one. Yes, the t-shirts run true to size. Family, see, you said I ordered one before, it was 2X and it was too big. I don't know how that gauges with the other 2Xs that you buy. But just let me know if you guys are having that type of problem. When you click on it, on the sizes, it tells you what they would be compared to. But even with that, my newer products family, I have to create a large, a small, a medium, extra large, and a large in every single style. And I just didn't do that. I really need someone who can help me with that stuff. But until then, when you're buying the products, please put in notes the size that you wear. Okay? Just put in notes the size that you wear. This helps me from having to create all those different things, and I can just send you your size from there. Okay? Because a lot of you guys are forgetting your sizes, and then I have to send you another email, and it takes you guys a couple of days to respond. Or it took me a day or so to see it. I get thousands of messages every day. And so by the time I respond back, you guys are saying, hey, where's my shirt? And I'm like, I didn't get your size, or I didn't get your address. So just make sure all of the information is input. That way we can get you your products, okay? And again, that's www.betheevolution.org. Right now I have a few items on there that's for sale. The I Support Being shirt is reduced to half price. It's only $15, and I'm encouraging all of you guys to get that shirt, okay? Because we're going to be wearing them and supporting this movement really soon. So I think the goal should be, right, the one that's told William, just live your life and be. Absolutely. And I think if we do that, we'll find that unity comes a lot easier than just trying to create unity. Um, oh, that's no problem. That's no problem at all. That's no problem at all, Nicole. I was actually get ready to wrap this up anyway, and I'm normally good at keeping my train of thought. I actually still know what I was talking about. It's no problem. I was just pretty much already there. I was just saying that, for us to be able to truly see outside the matrix, we just have to be able to see ourselves as unified or become more unified. Because it's through thinking that you have your own personality and name and social security number that you start to believe that you are actually different from everyone else. But without those things, we would see ourselves as one major organism. We would see ourselves as humankind or mankind or life itself, and not see ourselves as I'm Kevin, you are Nicole, you are Lamar, and Tyron, and Shabaka, and I have all these different names that make me believe that I'm actually different, but really you're not. You're not. We're all trying to make sense of the world, and our best explanation of the world is based on our own perceptions and nerves, and they can be wrong. We can we can brush our teeth and things won't taste right after. You can take certain drugs and stuff like that, and they can numb you to your reality, and cold don't feel cold anymore, and hot don't look hot or feel hot. And in certain cases, you can have a stroke where your nerves mess up and things don't feel right. You can lose an arm, and even though that arm is gone, you still have pain in your hand. And so we know the brain isn't always accurate when it's trying to give us a description of the world we live in. So how do we know what we believe is fact? This is the fact, family. You can touch water and it can feel too hot. And then you can sip it and it's actually just pretty warm. It's not that hot because you don't have the same amount of nerves in your mouth that you would your fingertip. Does that mean the water changed temperature though? It doesn't. But if you feel the water, you'll say that's hot. And if you taste it, you realize it's not that hot to taste, you'll say, oh, it ain't that bad. The temperature of the water, though, didn't change. How you received it changed, but the temperature didn't change. If myself and Lamar, let's see, Lamar's right there. If myself and Lamar are sitting in the same room, okay, and Lamar thinks it's cold, and I think it's hot, we both have two explanations of the world. So which one of us is telling the truth? Tell me, family, if myself and Lamar are in a room and one of us is cold and the other one of us is hot, which one of us is telling the truth, and how can we prove that it's hot? If I'm genuinely hot and I'm sweating, still how can I prove to a person that's cold that it's hot? How can I do that? They both are right, but what is the fact? So they're both telling the truth, right, J Dragon? I think I said Dragon. Yeah, J Dragon. DeWanda says they're both correct. They're both telling the truth, but which one? But how do we find the fact? See if you can help me with this one. I'm looking for your comments. Thank you, LaTanya. Yes, Karen, both are telling the truth, but how do we find the fact? One may be sick, that's true, but how do we find the fact to determine if one is sick, family? There has to be a fact, so they're both telling the truth. If I say Jesus is real, and I truly believe that, and I know I'm not lying by saying that, and I believe that, I would pass a lie detector test, but it doesn't make Jesus true, right? The measurement of the temperature in the air. Billy Barino! Good job, Billy. You check the thermostat. That's the fact. We look at this thermostat and we'll say, okay, we've all agreed on thermostats, yes? We can get on the news and say it's this degree outside and nobody has a problem with that. Doesn't mean it's literally that degrees, but because we have a social contract and understanding the temperature of the world, we can all agree on the temperature, right? So let's go look at the thermostat. The thermostat says 65 on the wall. Now, who has more of a right to say that it's hot or cold? The one who says it's cold, correct? This is how you can, so now we can rationalize, okay, if you're in a room that's 60-something degrees, then, and you're hot, you may be sick and your body could be with fever, right? You still didn't lie, and we're not calling you a liar. Check the thermostat. Absolutely right, Danita. Once you check the thermostat, we can now determine if one person in the room is sick or the other person in the room is cold-natured. But we can't do this unless we establish the fact. You see what I'm saying? The fact has to be established. And the fact ain't even a fact. It's something that we agreed upon as a temperature, but at least it gives us a foundation of something to go off of to determine who's right because we both agree with the fact. This is the difference. We both are playing by the matrix rules. So if it says 65 on the wall, then the person who is hot would have to agree that they probably are sick because of the rules that we set up in the matrix. It's not actually 65 degree on the wall. This is also made by man. We could have very well said that 60 was 30 degrees and it would have felt the same and we wouldn't have had a problem with that either. You understand? We could have said hot was cold. And if that's the first thing we learned, we wouldn't have a problem with that either. It's a social contract that an apple is an apple. We just all agree on it. If we had all agreed that an apple was an orange, we would be calling oranges apples. Do you understand what I'm saying? So how do you get the fact? If me and a person are arguing about what's an orange and what is an apple, the way we establish who's telling the truth, because you could be from a different plane of existence. You could be from a different culture where in your language you call an apple an orange. You may not be lying when you call it an orange. You actually may not be lying. You may be telling the truth, but I may be telling the truth as well. So when we establish that in your culture it's called this and in my culture it's called this, then maybe we can understand that what we're calling it has nothing to do with what it actually is. What we're calling it has nothing to do with what it actually is. So if you were taught to call yourself a dog instead of a human, you would be a dog, not a human. So being a human has nothing to do with who you actually are. But when we make mistakes, we'll say, I'm only human, as if you are actually human, but you're not. It's a word. It's a word that you call yourself, that you identify with. You understand? You know more in a human than a dog is a dog. A cat is a cat. So calling yourself a human does not define you. It just merely gives description to you based on the matrix that we all agree on. That's the difference in between truth and fact. Truth can be true without being fact. Right, we use society's ideals to determine facts. And that's okay if we're going from a standpoint of agreeing on ideals. It's a fact that black is seen as bad or negative. But it's not a fact. It's not a fact that it is, though. But it is a fact that it's seen as such because we've been taught that. But it doesn't make black actually have a purpose. This is just our understanding of it. This is our way of trying to define the world. And we came into the world late. So we came into the world not being able to rationalize the world on our own. We came in the world hearing about the world through other people. So we got to hear things like if you step on a crack, you break your mama's back. We got to hear things like if you split the pole, it's bad luck. 7 years bad luck if you break a mirror. Black cats are bad. Black is bad. White is good. White is pure. Red is passion. Red is hot. Red is angry. Yellow is friendship. These are things that we came out. We get the back end of when we come into the world. We didn't determine this on our own, but somehow we hold all of these things as some type of truth in a world that literally none of that stuff even matters. And so you're trapped in the matrix trying to see the world for what it is, but you can't because you've been deceived. You've been misled. And that's why I say, like, concepts totally, whether it's religion, whether it's social, they can hold your mind back when it comes to evolving further in life and evolving your species or evolving your organisms in life because you don't see the world correctly. Be like water, absolutely. If you put a drop of water in the ocean, it becomes the ocean, right? We say this all the time. Being conscious is when a drop of water recognizes that it's an ocean, or when a wave recognizes that it is the ocean, right? But being conscious is also when an ocean recognizes that it's just a drop of water. We think we're oceans. We think that we are so significant to the world. But what if we just a drop of water? What if all of us together are something and individually we're just a drop of water? Instead of seeing ourselves so high. One of my favorite villains is the Joker off Batman. And I'm just going to explain to you guys a little bit about the Joker before we end this, okay? Someone asked me earlier, am I crazy? We would say the Joker's crazy, right? Nicole, I see the purchase. Thank you very much. We would say the Joker is crazy, right? He seems crazy. He's always being put in the psych ward, Arkham Asylum, right? He's always causing chaos and terrorizing.